Hello. It's Blackout Wednesday. That's why I put Shootout Wednesday down there. I had Blacked Out Wednesday, and then I'm like, it wasn't that bad. At least they got the point and got out of there. Actually, 2 days ago, Monday's game, I was planning on doing a Periscope after that one because I'm like, all right, it's earlier game. It's not gonna be Blackout Wednesday. We'll do it after that one. And they end up, coming back, winning in Shootout. It's a wacky game. But I felt like, yeah, I don't really like what happened in that game. I thought they were a mess defensively. I thought they kind of took advantage of a bad team, and really the process of that game I thought was somewhat of a disaster and very not replicable at all for this team to be able to continue winning games of the way they were doing. Now, of course, there's no Carlson, there's no Petrangelo, there's no Stone, there's no Olafson, there's no White Cloud. Like, there's reasons for that. Now you get a couple of them back into this game, and then this one, it's like the process of this one, while much differently, it didn't look the same as the last one by any stretch of the imagination, but it it really was not good. Like, this is not how this team wants to play. The thing that they need to do in a game like this against a team like Colorado is they've got to get offensive zone time. They've got to put themselves in a position where they're living in the offensive zone and kind of wearing them down. And we saw a little bit of that in the third period. And of course, it's a 5-game road trip. It's a ridiculous road trip where it's all the way east. It then comes back to Philly. Then it comes back to Colorado with the altitude and the time zone. And it's goofy because that's an 8 p.m. local start, which is like 10 p.m. where they had been on the East Coast for the last 5, 6, 7, whatever it was, days. So it's a weird spot. I'm well aware of that and understanding that, like, it was probably going to fade as the game went on, but it's like there was just nothing there in basically the back 30 minutes. The second they scored the goal, and really even the goal is, like, in my opinion, pretty bad goaltending. It's a hell of a shot, don't get me wrong. It's a good set of breakout passes that allows the opportunity, but you end up with that situation where it's basically a shot off to the side. He does have space, he does have time there. It's a great shot. Give it to Pavel for finishing that shot, but really to me it's like, that's not like the greatest opportunity, and that's the only goal they get. That's the only real opportunity they had basically in all of the last 40 minutes of the game. And then you can add overtime. There was nothing inside of overtime. So the thing that I do think is a huge positive out of this, though, is one of the things I've been harping on for a little while, and it's been basically consistent for the past, I don't know, you can argue all 23 games, but certainly at least like 15 to 18 or so of them, is they have not been defending at the level that they need to defend at if they're going to do what we want them to do, which is not just beat shitty teams on the road or whatever. It's like play a game against Colorado where you deserve to win. This game coming up on Friday, playing against the Jets, and then playing against Edmonton, and then playing against Dallas. Like, these are the teams that we're going to want to see. And to have a level of play defensively that they had tonight, I thought was significantly better. It's different because it's not what they can be at their best, but we understand there's players out of the lineup, a very significant one in Mark Stone. I think the bigger part is like the way that they were getting bodies in the way that they were forcing shots off net, the way that they were getting sticks on a lot of these loose pucks. Like, as the game went on, it did start to break down a little bit, and they were getting a little bit more dangerous chances as the Golden Knights were getting hemmed in more and more. But for the most part, I thought they made it really difficult for Colorado to get directly in front of the goal and get these chances. Fortunately, every single time Colorado did get directly in front of the goal and had anything of a dangerous chance, they missed the shot. Like, even the one at the very end of the game, I saw the replay. I think it was wide. Like, Aiden Hill had a very good game, don't get me wrong, but Colorado had a horrific shooting game. Like, it's very, very bad. And the Golden Knights are very fortunate that it did go that way, because if they're on net with 15% of the ones that they missed, one of them's going in, and they're going to lose that game. Like, it was something in the neighborhood of like 80 shot attempts, and only I think like 30 of them made it through. So for the Golden Knights to block whatever it was, 20 plus, and have 30 of them miss the net, like, that's pretty fortunate. Granted, goaltending is good, blocking shots is good. You're forcing them to really look for these holes and look for these difficult opportunities to finish. And sometimes the hockey gods reward you with them missing a whole bunch of these opportunities and giving you a point that they probably did not deserve. So it's like you look at how that game goes. To me, it's like that's not a winning recipe by any stretch of the imagination. We understand that. We understand that the last game is also not a winning recipe by any stretch of the imagination. However, there are parts of both of them that if they were to come together, that it would be a winning recipe. So to be able to get the 3 points out of 4 out of those two games, and to have parts of it to say, all right, well, one of it is they found their way behind. They're able to get a lot of offense. They do start leaning on them. They do take their chances when they get them and put themselves in a position to get back in the game. And then this one, it's like, all right, well, now we're defending for 40 plus minutes and they're not giving up all these unbelievable chances. It's not to say there weren't good chances. There were, but there was never a second chance in front of the goal. Not once did they get a whack on a puck in the second chance in front of the goal. Not once did they have an opportunity where they really got a great breakaway chance. They did have more 2-on-1s than I think the Golden Knights would have preferred, but I do think that some of it is like you're trying to push forward. You've had a pretty good season offensively. You want to get some of it. I don't mind some of opening it up. And Colorado's going to get those chances anyway. Like it's inevitable that eventually Colorado's going to get some of those chances. So to me, it's like the defensive aspect of the game tonight, coupled with a lot of what went right offensively in the game in Philadelphia. Like that is a winning mentality, like, or not winning, like method, winning ingredients. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Like there is something there that they can do to win games with that, even with their best, one of their best players, if not their best player, arguably the most important player in Mark Stone out. Like there's no question to me that it's there. And to me, this is a huge part of taking that step defensively that I wanted to see. Like this is probably the most important thing to me because I don't believe, despite what the world has been saying and the games have been saying, I don't think this is a high scoring team. I don't think this is a team that's going to get to the playoffs and beat teams 4-3. I just don't. I think if they give up 3 pretty much any night, basically the rest of the season moving forward, they're going to have a hard time winning. Like I would guess the rest of the season, giving up 3, I think they win less than 5 games the rest of the season. And that's 60 games or whatever it is remaining, 59. Like I don't think it's going to be terribly common. So to me, you want to get more of a defensive effort. You want to get more out of what you're, the blocking shots, getting in shooting lanes, making life difficult on entries, doing a lot of those good things. And to me, that's something that we saw in this game, even though it probably shouldn't have been a 1-goal game 65 minutes in. Like they almost certainly have to get the other one. Hill was very good. I don't think Hill was over the top unbelievable because I think Colorado's shooting was terrible. Like I think it was awful. And to me, that indicates a little bit that this game probably should not have gone that way. There's been a lot of talk about the Alex Holtz shootout. I want to take that in a second. But first, I will tell you that this Periscope and all Periscopes are brought to you by the Jimmerson Law Firm. Jimmerson Law Firm is one of Las Vegas' preeminent law firm specializing in high-stakes business, civil, and family litigation. When winning matters, seek out the Jimmerson Law Firm. Winning, not bad. 7 points out of 10 is certainly good. I put it in the 3 takeaways presented by .vegas. It's probably 2 points, if not for 3 unbelievably good goaltending performances. Like the one in Ottawa for Samsonov was excellent. The one in Philadelphia for Samsonov was excellent. The one tonight is pretty darn good, if not excellent, for Maiden Hill. Like it's pretty good, right? So you don't get, that's 5 of the 7, or 5, you're right, 5 of the 7 points. Again, I just don't know that's the method. Like, I just don't think relying on goaltending and giving up 4.5 expected goals per night is going to work. Like, I just don't think it's going to work. And it has worked to this point, but the scoring is starting to taper off. Stone being out certainly is a huge part of that, but it is starting to taper off a little bit. And we'll see. Like, they're good. They're good enough to give themselves a spot in the playoffs. I think that, they lead the division. They're in a pretty good spot there. They're getting through the hardest part of the schedule, and they've succeeded through a good portion of it. I'm really not all that worried about any of that, but you need to start seeing it be more consistently. This is how you play good hockey to win. And it just hasn't been enough of that, certainly against the good teams. Like, arguably, there's not a legitimate great win on the record all season. Like I guess maybe Colorado on opening night, and that was without Nichushkin. That was without there were a couple other guys that were out in that game. Like and really Nichushkin's probably the one that matters because he kills the Golden Knights every single time. He scores the goal, and then he almost scored the one right before the end of the frame, which would have been a 0 point game there, and then he scores the one in overtime. So Holtz and Shootout. So the first thing I'll say on Holtz and Shootout is if you have Alex Holtz on your roster. Oh, and yeah, like okay, Edmonton is like the sort of signature win. Connor McDavid was a shell of himself in that game, and the Golden Knights got steamrolled in that game as well and found a way to get through it. So it's like the process of that one isn't particularly good. I'd love to see Friday Winnipeg play one of your better games. Play a solid game. They've been able to do this against Winnipeg a number of times, specifically in this building in Vegas. Like if they could do that, then we can start to look towards, all right, this is what it needs to look like for this team to do it. So again, Alex Holtz and Shootout. If you have Alex Holtz on the roster and you have Alex Holtz in your lineup, these are opportunities that you want to give to Alex Holtz. Like, what is the best thing that he offers this team? And that is great hands, great ability to score, and puck on stick looking at the goalie. That's what we want. That's the situation that you have Alex Holtz there for. Now, he's over 1 in his career in Shootout, and I'm not 100% sure if the stat that I pulled included this game. I'm guessing it did not, but that because I don't think they update until after, but I did pull the stat after the game. So he's either 0 for 1 going in or he was 0 for 0 going in. I've watched him in practice. He is very good at it. Like he is good at it. I've seen him score some ridiculous ones in practice. So they do this from time to time. They do it after morning skate from time to time. You'll see guys kind of gather around and take shootout opportunities. I don't see when you look down the roster. So Theodore went, Dorofeev went, Eichel went, Wah went. Those are literally the top players on the list. The only one that's better that did not go is Hanifin. He's 1 for 3. And I don't think you're going to go with Hanifin before you go with Carlson or Holtz, or arguably even trying Hurdle, who is bad. He's 3 for 21. Carlson's 2 for 9. Pearson's 3 for 17. Petrangelo's 0 for 2. Howden, Schwint, Barbashev, Burke, Kolazar, McNabb, Korzak, Haig all have never taken one. None of them have taken one in a real game. So, like, the option basically comes down to, is it Holtz? Is it Carlson? To me, I thought Carlson wasn't particularly on top of his game today. The skating's always going to be there. Getting himself into the right positions is always going to be there. But I didn't think his stick play was particularly good. I didn't think he drove offense the way that he normally does. Unsurprising, the fact is he had a baby a couple of days ago and probably hasn't slept since, and then gets on the plane, goes up there. It's probably not good. So in that situation, I don't mind giving Alex Holtz that chance. You're also an opportunity to get a confidence builder. He's got the puck on his stick. If he can put one in, he becomes the hero for a night. That would have been awfully nice. Maybe get him going a little bit at 5-on-5, a little bit more without the power play time that he's gotten. Like all of that, I don't mind it at all. And arguably, I think it's the right decision. Like, I would not put Hurdle out there who's 3 for 21. That's 14%. Like, no way. I don't want that. Petrangelo's 0 for 2. Hanifin's 1 for 3 and really didn't have a terribly impactful game himself until way towards the end. And really, usually you prefer forwards as opposed to defensemen. Theodore's a different animal. He's 44%. It's very good at it. Give him the chance. It is the same move every single time, and it was the same move again, and he stopped it. That is one that, like, maybe, and again, now that you look back and it's like, well, they didn't score on all 5 of them. They scored on 1 yesterday. When you look at the history, like I'm sitting here watching the game, and when Wah goes, I'm like, it's going to be the motorcycle kick. He's probably going to go to the left side. His shot's going to go to the left. Theodore's going to be forehand, backhand, roof. Eichel's going to come into the left, cut across, and shoot it in underneath the glove and over the blocker. Dorofeev's going to come in real slow, try to bring it all the way across and wait the goalie out and flip one over or just slide it in. Like the fact that I'm able to know based on just seeing a shootout last game and then seeing a lot of the shootout attempts in the past, exactly what they're going to do. I have a feeling Georgiev also had a pretty good idea of what they were going to do. The attempts weren't bad. Like it wasn't It wasn't puck slipping off the net. It wasn't shooting the puck wide. It wasn't any of those things that we've seen other teams do or even this team do in the past. It was just not being able to execute that particular play against a goalie who, in my opinion, looked like he knew what was coming on all of them. Holtz, he wouldn't know what was coming. So again, I don't mind that at all. In the end, it doesn't work. I think Carlson probably goes next. So if you're like, oh my God, I can't believe they gave Holtz the chance over Carlson, well, then we would have had the goal. Say Carlson scores, Nichushkin comes back and scores, Holtz misses, they're going to have another opportunity. They probably still win. So in the end, probably doesn't make a huge difference. Any concern about the power play as of late? Seems to be struggling. Enter. Yeah, like Eichel's basically the entry man, and he has been awesome entering. It has gone down a little bit. I think the outlet of having Stone isn't there, and because of that, Stone's real good at being like still and hitting a guy moving full speed. I think they need to kind of mix it up a little bit more as they go through. I do think the power play success is flat out. There hasn't been as much zone time. They're not winning the draws as much as they were. They're not in the zone for as long as they were. And then obviously Stone down near the goal, he's way better than Nick Waugh is. It doesn't like Nick Waugh's horrible, but he's way better at it. So just that alone, less zone time, less opportunity. Yeah, you're not going to be as good. And there's not these last couple of games, and this is something that maybe they need to start looking into is like, how do we draw more penalties? If you're going to have a good power play, you need to draw penalties. Because if you're going to have games like this is a perfect example. If they would have gotten another power play at some point later in that game, they might steal the game in regulation because the power play is good. And if Stone comes back, the power play is probably going to be excellent. So you've got to find a way to get those. To get basically one a game isn't going to be enough. And it's this weird thing that happens in the NHL. And I don't even know what to make of it. It's like teams that don't take penalties don't draw penalties. That's been the history for the Golden Knights for a long time. And usually we don't care because we're not going to score on the power play anyway. The penalty kill is usually slightly better than the power play, sometimes a lot better than the power play. If it's even, it may not be a net positive. Now, I think it probably is. They're more likely to score on the power play than I think they are to give one up on the penalty kill. That's how I feel. So it would be nice to get more of those opportunities and have a chance to see more opportunities for the power play. It's hard to get in the rhythm when you don't have a lot of offense going, and then when you have one power play opportunity here or there. Is the record a mirage this year? I don't think so. Like, I agree that there has been quite a bit of luck that's kind of gotten them to where they've gotten to. What is the record? Fit 14, 5-3 or something? Is that what it is? Let me make sure. I think that's right. It's a 14 and 9, I think, is the overall, or 14 and 8. Let me find out. 14, 6-3. So it's like 14 and 9 seems about right. 14, 6-3, the fact that 3 of them are overtime losses and only 6 are in regulation, like I think maybe there's a point or two that potentially could go the other way, but really like 31 points in 23 games is about right. Maybe it's closer to 29 or 30, 28 if things really went south here or there. Like, but I do think that the record of what they've got so far is a record in a regular season, and it's not indicative of what it would look like 20 games in a row against the best teams in the league in the playoffs. Like the regular season, you play a lot of shitty teams. You play a lot of teams that are in weird situations. Sometimes you're in weird situations. Like there's a lot of bad hockey that goes on in the regular season. That tends to disappear when the games matter most. And that's what we want. We're not in this to make the playoffs and just get in and then get bounced in the first round. Like that's not the goal. The goal is to get in and be very good once they get in. So the record to me so far is not indicative of a team that's going to dominate in the playoffs, that is even going to have much success at all. Like they do not have many wins over playoff teams. And a lot of the playoff teams, it's gone quite poorly. Toronto, Carolina, I guess the Tampa game wasn't that bad. The Florida game was bad, even though they got that thing into overtime. There hasn't been a lot of West Western Conference teams. Like now we've gotten Colorado twice. The first game was obviously good. This one not good at all. You play 7 of those, this right like that, you lose. Like probably lose that game in overtime in a playoff series. You lose. So that's where, do I think the record is a mirage? No. But at the same time, do I think the record is indicative of them being one of the 5 or 6 best teams in the NHL? No. I think that there's a lot of space for them to get a lot better. And the record kind of indicates that based on the fact that it's 14-9 and almost all of the wins. Like let's just go through it because it'll be an interesting exercise real quick just to play through all of the different wins that they've had this season. I know that it starts off with Colorado. So yeah, it's Colorado on opening night, then St. Louis, bad, fired their coach. Anaheim, bad. Washington, Tampa, and Florida are all losses. Then LA, all right, they're decent. That was a great win. There is then an LA shortly after where they get pumped. So those ones almost cancel themselves out. Ottawa, San Jose, Calgary, all kind of struggling. Calgary's been a little bit better, so that one's all right. And that was a butt kicking too. 5-0 winning that one at home. Utah, Edmonton, overtime loss to Seattle, lost to Carolina, Anaheim, Utah. Then the other wins on this trip are Ottawa, Montreal, Philly. Like there's not a good win in there. There's not a lot of bad losses. There's not a lot that you look at and you're like, oh my God, this is a disaster. But there's not a ton of great wins in there. So the overall, not good enough. Yeah, so somebody said I didn't send out the three takeaways on subtext. I thought I did, but I guess I did not. I will do that when this over. Shout out to .vegas for sponsoring us. If you don't have a .vegas website, you need to get one because they are fantastic. They make your website way cooler. SinBin.vegas. We've had it for the entire time. We built our entire brand around it. It's great. And you can go to porkbun.com/SinBin and look it up. I just did it. I just did it for the tweet on those 3 takeaways. I looked it up. Thanksgiving.vegas is available. Turkeyday.vegas is available. In other words, any word that you want that is similar to your business is probably available. .com is not. So go to porkbun.com/SinBin and look up what you want, and you can have a .vegas domain for just $12 through Porkbun. Very easy to get them. Very easy to use your website. Also, I should say this more. If you have a website that's a .com, you can have a .vegas on top of it, and then it just redirects to the .com. That's okay. And then you can advertise the .vegas and still have everything go to the .com. It's not you have to change the entire website. We had SinBinVegas.com for a long time. .vegas is way better. Updates on Stone, Olofsson, or Whitecloud. I have very little on Stone. Olofsson, we know, was doing the conditioning stint with Henderson. I do think that I did write a little bit about this. Kelly McCrimmon went on the Insider Show on the radio a week and a half ago or so now, and he kind of clarified what the point was of that conditioning stint. Usually we see conditioning stints and we're like, all right, well, they want to get him in a couple of AHL games. He hasn't gotten into an AHL game. So I don't think the plan was actually to put him in an AHL game. I think the plan was they're going to go on the road. They're going to have 5 road games, all with basically 1 day in between. There was one where there wasn't a day in between. The only opportunity that they were going to get out of essentially the entirety of the next 10 days from when this trip started was morning skates. Morning skates are kind of run throughs. They're just to get guys touches. They're just to get guys' legs moving. You don't learn a ton. It's not a hard skating practice. There's never battle drills inside of any of them. That's what Olofsson needs. In this situation, I actually think it's good that the team that in Henderson has been bad because he's going to get into practices that are going to be fiery, that are going to be much more high intensity. Obviously, AHL players, it's not at the same level, but I think we're getting close. I think we're getting close on him. The fact that he goes to that conditioning stint indicates they think he's close enough. I thought it was possible towards the end of this trip. Obviously, it then does not happen. I don't think it's out of the picture for him to play inside of November, which is the next 2 games. I think that is certainly possible. Whitecloud, we also do not have much information on him. We will see when they get back. I do want to say that like when the team goes away for 9 or 10 days, I've seen a lot of this on Twitter where it's like, why is there not an update on Mark Stone? Why is there not an update on any of these players? I don't travel to every single road game. Most of the other people that are independent journalists, or at the very least, journalists that write for someone other than the Vegas Golden Knights, most of them do not travel. It is basically the way that the business has gone. We watch on TV. We get to do things like this when we don't travel. It's not as beneficial to travel currently as it used to be, and therefore you don't see as much travel. Therefore, the press conferences are essentially only Golden Knights employees. If you listen to any of the press conferences with Bruce Cassidy, it's basically Ashley, Gary, Nighty, and Gosher, and then you might get every once in a while a question from an away media. They're not going to ask about Mark Stone because the Golden Knights really don't want to tell you what's going on with Mark Stone. That's been the history that they've done. Only when they absolutely have to do they share that. So they're going to shy away from that and not get updates. Now that they're coming home, you are going to get more often updates because the people who are independent, who do want you to know more about Mark Stone's injury updates, we'll ask them every single day. We will probably get an update on Friday. We'll probably then get another update when the following well, the next game's a back-to-back, so we may not at that point. But there's home practices. We know who's on the ice. When there's road practices, we don't have video of the practices. We don't get all the information of who's not on the ice. Why the Golden Knights do not feel the need in the morning to give out more information about who's on the ice, I don't fully understand. However, that is their prerogative. They are allowed to do that. Fans can react however they want. I would think it would be best if fans would say, no, we want more of these updates and demand some of this from the people that are asking these questions. You can demand it of me, and if you do demand it on me, I will ask it tomorrow. So it does work on me. If you want a question asked to Bruce Cassidy, ask me, and I will probably ask him as soon as I possibly can. That's not been the case when they've been on the road, when it's all Golden Knights employees asking the questions. It's up to them. It's their call. That's why we haven't gotten a Mark Stone update for it's been essentially almost 2 weeks now, because those questions are not asked when independent journalists are not on the road with the team. Thanks again to the Jimmerson Law Firm for sponsoring all of our Periscopes this season and Twitter Spaces. We will be back. I'm not planning on doing the Winnipeg game. Maybe we'll do the game after that with the back-to-back. I might do the Saturday. We will see, and then we'll go from there. Since I'm wearing the shirt, which team has had a better overall season, the Golden Knights or the Bucks? I mean, it has to be the Golden Knights. The Bucks are 5-6. Like, that's bad. I do think the Bucks are still in play to make a playoff run because they're playing basically only shitty teams. I don't think they're particularly great. I think they're all right. But the Golden Knights have clearly been the better of the two teams. I don't think that's all that hard to say. Has anyone else addicted to those Honolulu Kono cookies from the Link Promenade? I have had them. They are delicious. I am not addicted to them. They are very good. So I will agree that those cookies are quite good. Some of them have the one nut in the middle. Those are good as well. I do like those cookies. Thanks for everyone for watching. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Enjoy the football tomorrow, and then we're right back at it with back-to-back games on Black Friday and then into Saturday. And then there's still a bunch of games. Like, they still have a lot of games before that little stretch where they don't have a few games for a little while. That's all I got for tonight. Thanks again to .vegas and the Jimmerson Law Firm for sponsoring this. That's it. Good night.